Hi, this is Mike from thesubstream.com, and this is an episode of Watch Us Instead for the week ending the 16th of July, 2010. And what I'm gonna do is tell you what to watch this weekend instead of watching Christopher Nolan's Inception. I have to. That's what the idea behind this show is I tell you what to go watch instead of something else. Instead of, in this case, Inception, which I'm telling you for some reason to watch something else, even though Inception is a really good, incredibly high-budget, slick piece of intelligent sci-fi filmmaking, which you should actually absolutely go see. But if you don't want to brave the crowds, if you're heading up to the cabin with kids, if you just can't make it to the theater, if you got air conditioning in your basement, you want to rent DVDs or Blu-ray for your Blu-ray player, I'm going to let you know what you can watch instead to approximate at least some part of that Inception experience that you should go to the theaters and have at some point, if not this weekend. One of the coolest things about this film, one of the best elements in the film that a lot of people aren't talking about, which you can understand why, because they're busy talking about the fact that it cost $200 million to make, it is Christopher Nolan that's directed it, and the last film that he directed was the Joker Batman movie, the fact that it's got an incredibly talented, incredibly handsome cast, it's got crazy visuals, it's got a bunch of crazy practical special effects, like zero gravity people floating around in the hallway. It's got a crazy script and dreamland and catharsis and subconscious, and Armand White doesn't like it, so people are talking about that. But what people aren't really talking about is the fact that it's a really, really, really good score. And I'm not somebody that normally notices this kind of thing because I'm almost tone deaf, but all the way through Inception, that was the thing that I kept noticing was the quality of the score, which is by a guy named Hans Zimmer. Like a lot of Zimmer scores, including the one with which he established his bona fides as the score for Rain Man in the mid-80s, Zimmer's score is mostly electronic rather than orchestral. He uses a bunch of these really dark, ominous, Vangelis-y, swooping synths, which seems kind of weird up next to this big $200 million behemoth of a movie, but it's actually really kind of effective, even though it's small and not bombastic and orchestral with kettle drums and everything else. It's just some synth lines. And if you're somebody that's interested in making your own movies, this is something that's relatively achievable. And I'm not saying that you can go do what Zimmer's doing, because Zimmer is kind of a generational talent, or almost, but you can get access to a synth to score your friend's movie, whereas you may not be able, for some reason, bad luck I guess, to get access to the LA Philharmonic Orchestra for a weekend in one of those big special rooms that you see on DVD special features with the big screen of the movie where they play. So what should you watch instead? My favorite and one of his absolute best scores is the score for Tony Scott's 1995 or 96 submarine movie Crimson Tide. Kind of a forgotten thing. I don't know if people were sick of Denzel or sick of Gene Hackman, although I don't know how you can get sick of Gene Hackman, or just sick of submarine movies at that point. But it's really, really, really good movie with a really, really, really good Zimmer score that he won a Grammy for. And like his scores for Rain Man and Inception, a lot of it's electronic with a lot of really cool synths and drum beats that you could achieve in theory if you had a rack of equipment rather than a bunch of people playing violin. So go watch that instead of Inception, which you should still watch anyways.